Roy, long and short of it is we're re-rolling and we need to do characters. And characters this time are a lot more involved than they were the time prior.
Yay! Just what I like. More fucked up, confusing shit.
Mechanically, everything is the same, and to be honest with you, it's from a mechanical perspective, it's pretty simple because you don't have to really worry about rolling money, gear, weapons, doing all that kind of stuff. That's kind of stuff that you'll figure out as the adventure progresses in a more natural way. We're basically starting out as level zero noobs, and as opposed to like, tell me about how epic and badass your guy was, because that's what we used to do. So what I'd like to do is kind of kick it over to folks who've got prepped characters, go through your characters, like kind of talk about some of the things about your character, to folks who may or may not have read your character background thing that you threw up, if you put one up there, and just kind of start collaborating on this. And eventually, Roy, we will get around to you. Gundren, or Corey, do you want to talk about Gundren first, since you were first up in the forums and you're not stuffing your mouth full of Lucky Charms?
Yeah, so I put a little bit of thought into this before I came to the table just because I have free time and I didn't want to just show up without even a name or anything. So, yeah, typed up the thingy and threw it up on Roll20 so everybody else had kind of something to start with too. Gundren Ironroot, he's a hill dwarf. Obviously, he's a he, so he's a male. He's about 95 years old. Say what?
Echo.
Okay, thought somebody was talking. Dwarves mature at about age 50. Their average lifespan is about 350 years old. Gundren's 95. He's still pretty young, but not as wet behind the ears as he would be if he were 50 or younger. Dwarves typically don't leave their homes if they are traveling before then, as adolescents go. Unless they're like exiled or something, in which case they don't have they don't actually get to keep their names apparently. So none of that applies to Gundren. He's a good dwarf. Like all dwarves, Gundren was born with a natural affinity for shaping stone. His father was a builder. His grandfather was a builder. And his family tree is thick with dwarves renowned for their ability to make stone come alive under their chisels. Unlike all dwarves, however, Gundren had no passion for it. Working with stone didn't come as naturally to him, nor did he feel any satisfaction in it. The urge to leave the tunnels and hills grew stronger with him as he matured, until one day he said his goodbyes and ventured out into the world beyond the hills. After a period of traveling and exploration, Gundren became enchanted with the Dale lands and decided to plant his roots there. Taking an interest in the local wildlife and the value inhabitants placed on their pelts, he took up the trapper's mantle. Eventually, the last elves left the Dale lands. Left untended, the forest began to reclaim the road. Orcs began encroaching on the territory. The wilderness became too dangerous for many to traverse, and ultimately caused merchants to avoid the area. Trapping companies abandoned their holdings. The region fell on hard times, but Gundren's roots ran deeply here. Some dismiss his dedication as dwarven stubbornness. Others speculate that he simply has nowhere else to go. He'd seen human children grow old and have children of their own, helped raise homes and buildings in the community. He had made friends and been a figure in many lives. The truth of the matter was that this was his home, and he would not abandon it so easily. Presently, Gundren still prowls the forest, trapping the various creatures there for their pelts and meat. He squeezes out a living by bartering the pelts for goods he needs from other inhabitants of Elmwood. Taking only what he needs to get by, he donates much of the excess meat from his kills to the poorer families in town. Never openly doing so, he leaves these gifts on doorsteps and windowsills, occasionally leaving animal figures carved from wood for children, or a rocking chair for someone who manages to survive to old age in Elmwood. He seeks no recognition for what he does. His only hope is to see his homeland restored to its once prosperous state. And then getting specific with a couple of other characters that we've had crop up. Elena, how do you pronounce your character's name?
Sorry, Navia.
Navia? Okay. Gundren has a working relationship with Navia. He trades furs and food for medicinal supplies and aid whenever he needs it. On one particular occasion, he helped an injured woodsman, and this is actually where I made a note. So Roy, You can pay attention here. Drew, Service, if you hadn't put much thought into your stuff yet.
I'm doing that in the middle as you speak. So
Yeah.
I'm listening.
So we're supposed to come up with meaningful connections that our characters have with the town and with each other ahead of time. So I'm just kind of like coming up with a few random, like particular events. He helped an injured, insert person or profession here back to Elmwood in the dead of the night and placed them directly into Navia's care. So if you wanted to be a woodsman, if you wanted to be a trader, if you wanted to be a traveling merchant, another trapper, cool. We can kind of work you in there. Just a side note for you.
How long ago was that?
Because I was thinking carpenter, gardener, and a human
awesome.
named Jack.
It's how long ago it was is very open to speculation, Drew.
Okay.
It depends on how old your character is, if you wanted to use it. It depends on when Navia opened up her clinic to any and all comers by. I'm throwing out specific points of interest because we were asked to do so, and I feel like creating hooks for other players to latch onto. So,
Because
found out the details.
yeah, I mean, if Roy didn't want to use it, what I was toying with so far is at a young age I joined the local militia and was a scout, so maybe I was scouting and got injured and you found me or something.
Okay. Yeah.
If that's just something.
Or even someone as a child could have been injured.
Well, I joined the militia at 11. I was a scout because I was fast and small.
Yeah, and to be wholly honest, we can even come up with extra stuff if everybody else wants something to do with that kind of aspect too. I mean, I just threw 1 point out there in case anybody hadn't come up with anything.
This is literally just an ad-lib session just to come up with stuff and figure out how you all play.
Like, you leave presents on, like, people's, like, doorsteps and shit, right? So you're kind of like dwarf Santa Claus a bit.
He did it too! He did it too!
So it's like, so you're someone that, like, kids would be excited about, because, like, my character, I'm thinking, is going to be, like, a halfling from a farmstead with, like, 12 fucking siblings or something like that. And I'm thinking just, like, there's like male triplets, and like they heard about your like fucking like dropping presents off and everything, and like they heard a bunch of tall tales about you, so like they like to pretend that they're you essentially, and it just pisses the character's mom off to no end. Like she's always like cursing your name pretty much. So like that's kind of like that's what I'm thinking. So it's like my character would have heard of you, it would have been like no shit, like kind of like that. So that's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, like one of those things that in particular, too, we get to Amber's character, Jade. Her parents were really kind of concerned when she started showing more interest in the forests pertaining to her story. So one of those things where, Gundren doesn't want to go around just handing out gifts to everyone and all this stuff and, to make a big spectacle out of it. I mean, he just kind of does things for people. And, so kids at that point could look at it like a sense of mystery, who's leaving presents for me and this and that. And, it kind of might tickle Gundren's fancy a little bit to have this kind of like Santa Claus-y kind of appeal. But he doesn't go around broadcasting it, and it's not like it's he's really doing it just to be nice, not doing it for any kind of recognition. So, I imagine kids did actually kind of let some tall tales grow out of that, like they don't know who this guy is. He's a trapper. I mean, half the time he comes back from his treks looking, maybe a little worse for wear or
totally
this little
awesome if you're a kid, like looking totally awesome.
Well, I mean, it's like one of those guys that like you're a kid and you know how you don't just run up to adults half the time and hey mister, what's going on? It's just one of those, he's a dwarf, he's a little different. There might not be many dwarves around town. So kids are a little, shy to run up and like dance about him or something, but it's like, oh, he's the one who leaves presents, so they're unsure. So definitely if you want to use something like that with the ears, go ahead. He's not looking for titles or anything, but
cool.
So on that note, Amber's character Jade, Gundren caught her a couple of times going out in the woods once her fascination started growing, and rather than a lot of the people around town are terrified of the forest and what live there. And Gundren lives there. He's out and about in the wilderness. It's kind of an extension of his home. Considers that and the town part of his home, not just Elmwood. So rather than, kind of put the fear of it into her or into anyone that he really encounters, he more educates them. He kind of shows them both the beautiful and the darker sides of it. So they're just aware and have a better understanding rather than, just treat it like it's a no-no place and nobody ever goes there kind of a thing. So it's better to understand it than it is to just fear it all the time. So yeah, with that, I'll let Amber kind of explain more of her character and his interactions with her, but safe to say that her understanding of the forest let her venture out beyond the low wall more than some of the other townsfolk, and he and she kind of swap news and stories about what they've seen or what's going on in the woods to a present day. Yeah, so that's what we've got so far. Those two characters. You guys come up with stuff we're working in.
Anybody else have like ideas or thoughts about how you want to have your characters interact with Gundren, or times that you think you might have seen him or interacted with him?
Well, I can talk about mine, and like I already mentioned that Gundren could have found him because he was injured while scouting. So my character's name is Drake Rockbrook, also from a name generator, but two different name generators, one for the first name, one for the last name.
That's because finding a last name generator is very difficult.
I found a surname. I found a surname generator. Yeah, that's what I found. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I was just looking for
the
one.
same thing.
Words that I like that pertain to my character in foreign languages, and then adapt those.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
I haven't even come up with a last name for mine yet, so she's just Jade.
So I don't have a full-fledged out backstory yet, but I kind of have a starting point that maybe you guys can help me flesh out a bit. So currently I'm about early 20s, like 22. I joined the town's local militia at age 11, where I was a scout due to my size and speed, and that's where during that time I could have maybe broke my leg out while I was scouting the outskirts of town, and that's when Gundren found me, and did that whole thing. Yes, I am a human.
Okay. I figured with the age, but I was like, just make sure.
Yes.
Nate might have a lot of input on yours if it's just like the fresh, kind of like what he did with Lane. I don't know if you read much of it or not either, but
You will obliterate the butthole.
yeah. Like the size and speed part, that's all you're like, oh, this guy's gonna roll like a 7 and a 6 on his dex and his strength.
Well, that's when he was a kid. He could have ate too much and got fat and got slowed down. Whatever. This is not current stuff. This is past stuff. And so something could have happened that could have changed everything.
Yeah, I learned real quick when I was thinking about, I'm going to play a sickly-looking gravedigger. 18 strength, 19 dex, 18 con. Well, there goes that fucking story.
It's just strong. Some people are just strong, But
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, but I'm like, no, I just can't.
Well, I can scratch out everything to do with speed, and I just joined as a scout at 11 without going too much into it. If that need be.
Yeah, you're fine, man. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay, so
have fun helping you out.
That's where he learned to fight and the importance of brotherhood and respect for the law. At the age of 20, he joined the local peacekeepers. I'm not really sure what they call police. That's why I just call peacekeepers. So I'm like a deputy.
Constabulary?
Militia?
Or constable?
Well, I guess militia would probably be more of the outside forces, and what about internal affairs, which is probably
like militia is like the townsfolk that are mobilized to be soldiers if they're called on, and you could be like sheriff or constable or constabulary or something.
Internal would be constable works fine.
Yep.
I'm not the head. I'm not the sheriff. The sheriff is the head of the militia, like Corey suggested. The weapons I use are heirlooms from my maternal grandfather, who I don't know if is there like a local lord or a king anywhere nearby or anything like that? No? Okay, so that's
something like that. What would you ask, Roy?
I was just curious, like the town that we're all like kind of either coming from or near.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the setting? Are these like lords? Are they mayors, kind of like things, or?
Sure.
Who runs the town?
Yeah, let me help out with that a little bit, I guess. So the setting is Elmwood. Elmwood is a very small town and a somewhat remote area. Let me help you out with that, actually. Mo.
These loading times are atrocious.
Yeah, I know. Take forever. All right, Elmwood.
Okay.
So Elmwood sits on the Moonsea. Basically, think of a very, very shallow shore that only flat-bottom boats can really make it to on a pretty remote area. Now, it does sit between two major rivers that give access to this enormous forest, and one river that connects the Moonsea to the Sea of Fallen Stars. So the interesting thing about Elmwood is that it basically started out as a kind of like a stopover spot for traders and trappers. It grew from a layover spot to a trading post of its own, to kind of be a base of operations for the different mercantile companies that would try to go into Cormanthor, which is this basically an elven kingdom that's been abandoned for a very long time, or basically in the process of being abandoned for a very, very long time. And one of the interesting things about Elmwood and being close to this forest is that the creatures in there, beavers and what have you, are pretty valuable. Their pelts are as a commodity. That coupled with having a spot to stop over before going to port in the major cities around here made Elmwood a place that people commonly went through. Problem is that the decline of the elves in the forest made it a lot less, we'll say, balanced. And now, at this point in time, the forests are a little bit too wild. Orcs and goblins move around really unchecked, and they've pretty much disrupted the balance of everything there, and also made it very dangerous for trappers to go there. We're still at the cities. There's been a lot of political things going on there where they've basically kind of become this kind of crime-filled squalor. Really, they're different flavors of bad, but none of them are really great. So as a result, it's very difficult for fair trade to happen there. You have to grease a lot of palms just to get in the front door, and then just to find out that once you're there, there's a whole bunch of price fixing, and no one's going to give you what your stuff's worth. So you either need to give them stuff for way too cheap, or have a completely wasted trip, which doesn't work. So as a result, trade to these cities from the outside has come down quite sharply, and the people traveling through Elmwood, which really is Elmwood's bread and butter and how they make their money, have declined a lot in the past 100 years or so. Elmwood's on tough times because of that. So there, a lot of pretty simple folk. There isn't a keep or a castle in Elmwood. It's pretty much always used its remote location, and it's kind of obscure shores, and really the fact that they don't have a whole lot of value as a defense mechanism, as opposed to high walls and a deep moat. In terms of people who run things here, it's really whoever has the money. And one of the common things is that whenever there are major caravans or trading companies in, really everyone kind of dances whatever jig they need to do in order to make whatever money they can off of the people who are passing through. They do try to keep a sense of dignity about it. It's not like they're panhandlers. But it really is the lifeblood of this place. So there is cultivated farmland all the way around Elmwood, and people there are fairly self-sufficient with all that, and you can live a honest life. And to be painfully honest, the climate around this area is still unusually mild for how far north it is. There is snowfall in the winter, but it's not severe. That's something that all the other cities have taken advantage of, and they're considered really nice places to live, except for the fact that you'll probably be extorted and eventually murdered. So Elmwood's been a great way to enjoy the weather without the constant harassment that comes with being in the city. So it really is, it would be a great vacation spot if leisure trips were a thing in D&D. So,
hey, at least we're on the coast, so we
now.
get fresh fish.
Yep.
Nice.
Yay, sushi.
Alright, so instead of that, what I had for my weapons, I've saved up every penny I had and tried to get the best I could from any local traders that happen to go by.
Saved up every penny you had to get the fuck out of Dodge, because this place sucks.
So that's basically all I had so far with respect to my character. I don't have anything else at the ready, other than the fact that I'm trying to play this guy very, even though I know we're not very like alignment specific, but basically lawful good, but around that spectrum.
Gotcha. So some DM input. So having a weapon that you got from the traders, because they rarely bring weapons, which means they probably would have brought one by your request, and you probably attract a lot of attention. And being a small town, there'll probably be like a lot of talk and rumors about it. Because you do have a capable blacksmith, but he pretty much spends most of his time like repairing broken farm equipment and reshaping chipped and nicked and bent plows and a lot of really mundane stuff, but he does maintain people's weapons. So it's possible that if you've ever used your sword in practice or felt the edge dull, that he would be serviceable there. But yeah, it'd definitely be something that attract a lot of attention, because a lot of the things that people do get made are by journeyman blacksmiths, and the weight's all wrong. It's like as soon as you pick it up, it feels like
these aren't the best things in the world. This is just basically, I just bought. They were just like on sale, clearance or something. So I just needed something, and
right.
Maybe the local blacksmith may help make them slightly better, make them usable.
All right. Well, that sounds good. All right. So, anyone have questions about Drew's character or places that your characters might have plugged in?
I'm trying to think. So you're like a cop right now. So
Yes, I'm a cop.
Are you a deputy, or you're like, are you gunning for sheriff, or what?
I'm definitely gunning for sheriff. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Was there anyone you like replaced? Like, because you're
I
gonna
mean,
If I replaced anyone, it's probably because they died.
How long have you been a cop for?
2 years.
2 years. Cop. That's not
like, I mean,
Sorry.
I don't know about Nate or anything, but did you want to be sheriff? Like,
I didn't. I wanted to have something to aspire for instead of starting out at the top of where we are. So.
the pinnacle as high as you can get.
Yeah. So I wanted to aspire to something. So that's just slightly easier.
I was just waiting for somebody to say, like, oh, I want to own the general store. Like, all the fucking commerce in the town is my business.
I want to be the blacksmith. Well, I'm the only blacksmith in town.
That's kind of what I figured. Yeah, like, it's our own little town. I mean, sure, it's going to grow and stuff. So you're a deputy then.
Yep. Or whatever we want to call them in this area.
Maybe there's like some sort of crime, like a missing plow shar or something like that out in the farms or something. You like help them resolve it. So like maybe you were like out there for a time, like seeing to that issue or settling like some dispute with
Well, like,
farm.
since you're 2 years on the force, you get sent out for all those, like, missing out cop calls and
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, it was like missing cow. It was just some petty first
Yeah.
My cow's stuck in the tree again.
one. Maybe you like showed like some kids like some things with wooden swords or something. Like I'm just trying to think like have really good experience with the cop in the neighborhood. Like you're really cool. You're better than that old guy.
So two obvious, or I guess two suggestions. One, maybe some of Adam's character's siblings are shitheads, and Adam's character loves to fucking narc on them.
Oh, okay, that's his face.
And I'm the one he likes to narc on them for.
Yeah.
Like little
Okay.
halfling cronies for rough gut.
I'm trying to think of my character as like a narc. It wouldn't be his siblings, but it could be some of his neighbors or something like that. Like, let me see.
Where do you fall? You said you have 12 siblings. Where do you fall in that range?
He's oldest son, but he's like third oldest overall.
So you have older sisters? Okay.
He's like half, so that's like just like barely an adult.
In terms.
So he's still kind of a kid. So yeah, he's got like two sisters above him, and then like a whole bunch of other crap going on.
Yeah, I mean, I just imagine like in a 12 sibling house that you hear a lot of shit at the table.
Pretty much. Like the dad's just kind of like, just chill, and then like the wife's like kind of like on his case about something like all the time, and he's just like, yes, I'm like he was like building another like farmstead, like working on a house, and she's like giving him shit because he didn't make the ceiling tall enough. Like it's only like 5 feet tall, and she's like, how are you gonna have the Joneses over for tea with the 5 foot tall ceiling? He's like, you don't even like the Joneses. And it's like, So that's
What
like
if I
just
didn't
like
like it?
yeah, just like petty first world stuff, pretty much, and like yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So,
So I don't
Yep,
know, like knowing your character, maybe like help you apprehend a bandit or something like that.
What kind of bandit did he steal? Like livestock? Is he like a family heirloom? What kind of thing did he steal?
Shit, that's a good thing. It's a good
why
question.
were you out?
So, what was stolen? Just the facts. Just the facts, please.
My shoes. Sir Halflings don't wear shoes. Yeah. Shoes.
Yeah.
Just imagine like Drew's character's like running up behind you, and he grabs you by the collar, and you slow down. It's like, you know how fast you're going back there? Speed 30. Halfling speed is speed 25.
I'm gonna have to write you a ticket.
Nerd.
No, it's all good. It's all good, officer. Look, I have my dash paperwork right here.
Let me see that character sheet.
Like I want to have him like running from the police once. Like maybe he was like knocking down corn in like one of the neighbors' fields or something like that. You know, because corn's awesome to knock down when you're a kid because fuck corn, you just like kind of hit stalks and shit.
Mhm.
Like maybe the cops came, but then that wouldn't like leave me with like a positive taste. I'd be kind of like, oh hey, it's you, guy. I'm like not to like.
So Amber, we're trying to figure out how Adam's character relates to my cop.
The police.
I don't even know anything about Adam's character, so.
Right now, he's just a halfling farmer type, and he has 12 siblings.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Third oldest.
All right.
But he's the oldest boy.
Yeah, so
Okay.
dad's a farmer, and then all the family like helps run the farmstead, and like he's like right now my character's like the pig master, so like he doesn't like it particularly, but he does it.
Because
like-
pigs are
it's like-
evil.
Yeah, I mean, like imagine
Yeah.
like a 90-pound pig and a 45-pound halfling.
Exactly.
Oh,
It's just like,
jeez.
Mosey, please.
Pig just doesn't care.
Don't
so
run over me.
So let's see, police. Maybe like I was going in town to trade or something like that, and like someone stole like some of our like meat slabs that were coming in to trade. Like that could be like a bandit thing,
Yeah.
and then like my character, and then you like help my character like retrieve it. This is like the oldest son. It was probably like me and like my character and his father probably went in town together.
Okay.
And, yeah, and then like someone stole like I don't know, what do you call a pig unit? Like
Ham,
A
pork,
rack.
bacon, slab.
It's a rack.
a rack. Is
Yeah.
it? So he like stole a rack
Which-
of pig.
Pork ribs.
Pork
Rack
ribs,
of
yeah.
pork ribs.
So, what's your character's name?
Perry.
Perry.
Yup. Perry.
Do you have a last name?
Yup. I actually thought one.
Perry, yep. Okay, got it.
No, Winkle,
What?
Perry Winkledon.
Winkledon?
Winkleton? Like periwinkle, like the color?
Pretty much.
Helped Perry Winkledon and his father track down a pork rib thief.
Just
Yeah,
call
I mean, is your character like mischievous at all? Like, would you have pranked your siblings?
Absolutely, I think.
Yeah, like knocking down corn to spell out like one of your older sister's names, and just be like, "Yeah, I totally can't corroborate where she was."
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. That sounds more like right. Like when he's younger or whatever. Like it's like a couple of his sisters have the same name, so he gives like one of them shit about it or whatever.
They just started reusing them once they were far enough apart.
No, it's just one of them. It's like they forgot once. Like they're like shit.
That's special.
Yeah.
So you've got like Jenna and Jenna 2.
I got Lori, Laura, Lori, Lane, Alexi, Lucy, and Lee.
Two Lords.
Almost sound like Stephen Colbert whenever he
I
lists
like
his...
the fact that you named them all.
Yeah.
And then the triplets are Sean, Seamus, and Sheridan. Okay. And, yeah.
But they sound like the most mischievous of the bunch.
They're only 6. They're like 6 right now. So they're
Oh,
just
okay.
like kids
Never mind.
being-
Well, they're definitely going to be mischievous then.
They totally are. You know that they're getting in trouble already.
They're the kids that are acting. They're the kids that are like obsessed with Corey's character, probably. Like that's one of the games they play. Is like I'm Gundren or something like that. They're like, no, I'm Gundren. They're like, I'm gonna go in the woods and trap stuff.
Like,
And it's like, oh no.
we're gonna play orcs and gundrens. Okay.
Yeah, like they disappear into the fields and forest, and like his mom's like terrified. Like, so
And then the orcs came, and like mom turns white, and like, no, mom, not real orcs.
pretty much.
It was just Sheridan and Shelley.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Absolutely.
This is awesome.
All right, so you probably pranked your siblings, and potentially Drew's character Drake got pulled in on some of that.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
so we've got Drake, Perry, Gundren,
Jade.
Jade, Navia, and Roy's character.
Yes.
So I'm ready to kind of talk a little bit about mine.
Cool. What do you got?
So I'm in mid-sentence, so I'll just stop where I'm at. So, my name is Riven Tarmakos. I'm a carpenter, skilled archer, and trapper, a human around the age 30. Commoner, I'm not famous, of medium build and height. I'm only known among the town as a skilled tracker and archer. There's a stigma to my carpentry skills, as when I was 18 learning the trade, I made a flat-bottom boat for a well-known merchant who came to town. In exchange, but the merchant gave me a medium short bow. Upon departure, the merchant's boat sank and drowned in the river. As a result, merchants no longer trade with me or put any value in the skill that I have as a carpenter, even though my ability has become quite good over the years. I tend to keep it to myself and only make things for personal use. I'm almost always shunned by merchants that know me by name and I'm always reminded of my follies. My ability to trade is only as good as my friendship with those that know me in Elmwood. Friends that are few and far between. As a result, I was going to put insert somebody that I know in group is my ambassador for trade.
That would probably be a good spot for my character. She tries to help out like everybody in the town, so she would definitely take up that role.
Like town middleman.
Yep.
You spell your character's name. I'm like trying to write stuff down because I'm going to forget everything.
Riven.
Oh, Riven? Okay.
Ah.
Ikos.
Ah, Riven, Roy. Okay.
They both are ours. We can do this.
What race is Riven?
He's human.
These people.
Okay. And for people that Riven's friends with, like, what's his general disposition? Like, what is he normally doing around town? Does he live with his family still, or is he kind of doing his own thing?
I live by myself.
Huh?
I haven't thought about any family yet. But, I'm pretty self-sufficient. I make a living off of hunting and trapping. Again, the carpentry I only do for myself now. That was my profession, but I cannot trade as a result.
Okay.
So I live off of the things that I hunt and trap, and I use my friendship with insert Amber
Jade.
to trade for goods.
Okay. And so Jade spends a lot of time in the woods, so does Gundren, so it's possible that you would have interacted with them. Corey and Amber have any kind of like jump-ins about things that they might have, that Riven might have seen you doing, or kind of interact with you in the woods?
He's a carpenter. Is that what your kind of your trade is, or is that how do you earn your living around town? Like, how do you feed yourself, basically?
Hunting and trapping, and what I do is I now trade. It's kind of like a three-way trade. I trade Jade for something of that, and I'm then able to get the things that I need.
So you're like the town pariah, pretty much. Like,
Gundren does a bit of woodworking himself as well. I would imagine that they might swap some, swap some woodworking tips, or Gundren may keep an eye out for any good patches of wood, any good lumber or whatnot, because he knows the town pariah likes to make his own stuff out of wood.
So that's kind of what I'm kind of trying to stage here. Like, my stuff is worthless to the outside, except the people who know me and are friends regard it as good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like Gundren doesn't make a big deal out of selling his little wooden figurines or anything either. He just kind of like whittles stuff and then gives it away. Um, so I mean, like they have a common interest in the woodworking, the wood making form spring from wood. Um, and if he's a trapper, I'm sure he and Gundren have worked out kind of which territories they'll each trap individually so that they don't overstep each other's bounds, and they each actually make out pretty well in the woods without undercutting each other or anything. So, yeah, so I'm sure he talks with them on a frequent basis about, kind of stuff.
Make out woods.
That's...
Sorry.
All right.
Roy, how old is your character?
30.
Are we all 20-something, 30-somethings other than Gundren?
I
think so.
think so.
I think we're all people aside from me and Gundren. So
Yeah.
So there's a pretty good chance Gundren's known, hell, even Perry over there, since they were kids.
he probably like doesn't. I imagine like Gundren's like someone that Perry's seen a lot, but never quite put two and two together. With like, well, maybe he did.
Well,
Like
if his
mischief.
brothers are saying.
Yeah, but I mean, just because I mean, like they've heard of him. Like it's like kind of like a rumored dude, so it's like maybe never asked his name, so it's like he'll be like surprised as hell and just like, awesome, it's you. He's gonna like.
Well, I mean, like I'd imagine they, being if your brothers were mischievous or not too, they'd try to track him themselves. Like when he would go out into the wilderness, they'd try to track him as far as they could, but then lose him every now and again. Like get stuck out in the woods, and then cops would show up and have to drag their asses home by the ears, kind of a thing.
Pretty much, and that's why Ma hates Gundren.
Yeah, I mean, so Gundren's not so much like doing it of his own knowledge.
He's just doing his thing, and then the kids are just like, "Oh my god, let's do kid stuff."
I want to be Gundren one day.
I mean, so it's almost a once a week occurrence when Drake brings your brothers back, dragging them by the ears back home to mom.
That's pretty much.
You're constantly seeing the example of your brothers getting drugged home by the law, and Drake kind of gives you that wink, like, "Stay out of trouble, little Perry."
But his brothers are 6.
Yeah.
Boys will be boys.
Mm.
Small town problems. That's like some small town shit. So.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Are we all trying for a connection to everybody else, or just a connection to some and
We're
those
just trying to
connect?
make sure that if when the adventure calls, that it makes sense that you guys would be like, "Hey, person that I know and have good relationships with, let's travel together."
Mhm.
Okay.
So the docks are alive, right? I mean, the docks are pretty busy, but everything else is pretty not.
Right.
Oh, new pictures.
That's hot. Yeah, it's like land values are fucked.
I mean, that's a good thing, a good point. It's not probably unlikely. No, GM note to self, make this NPC. That there's some dude who just has a lot of money and just shows up and lives here, not because he likes it here. I mean, the weather's fine or whatever, but there's just a bunch of less good off than him people that he can make dance for nominal amounts of money. All right, so yes, there is a dock. It is alive. There are folks there. It has the approximate density of like a city, except for like it's maybe a couple blocks deep, and then it just kind of turns into it's like a Disneyland set. Like from the front, like everything's like yeah, and then like as soon as you get like a couple blocks in, you're like oh, you're like backstage, and it's just like.
Maybe we should stay on the main streets.
Yeah. It's just like you get past like a couple rows of buildings, just like open expanse and cow paths, like going out towards the farmland.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about. I'm going to pronounce it right the first time. No, let's talk about Jade because we've got like a few hooks from Jade. So Jade.
I don't think I've read all my stuff yet.
Yeah, so let's talk about Jade. That's what I'm saying. Like, let's do your bit.
All right, mine is kind of in pieces, so I'm gonna try to piece it together. When she was a child, Jade found a small wooden wolf at her doorstep. Thinking it was brought by a magical being, she stayed up every night for a week before seeing Gundren leaving his presence at doorsteps. Not wishing for his good deeds to stop, she kept the knowledge to herself. The small gift did, however, start a love of nature in her. As Jade grew, she learned much about the forest nearby, much to her fears, the fears of her parents. One day, well, let's see. I've got more on her parents. Let's see. They were born and raised in this small town. They're the Taylors. Um, they do their part to keep the town self-sufficient and to carve out a meager living for their family. Now, when Jade was also younger, she met a guy in the woods, and he had escaped his monastery while it was under siege by ogre and some other creatures. He wasn't sure of their name. Unnatural is what he called them. He fled into the woods and wandered for days, maybe weeks, before finding Jade. She led him to the village, and her family gave him a home after his passing. His name was Arjun. The two soon fell in love and would go for long walks in the woods where he would teach her how to respect, honor, and coexist with nature, as well as how to protect herself from dangers through the use of martial arts. As young love often does, theirs was met with a tragic end when he became sick and died. Try as she might, Navia couldn't cure him. Since his death, Jade continues to meditate and practice what he had taught her in an attempt to make him proud. During her meditations, she can feel his presence guiding and helping her to continue to master the art. She also uses her knowledge of the woods to gather berries that she sells at the market and herbs for medicine. Even though she's shy, she tries to help everyone in the village. She does chores, makes repairs, cares for children, pretty much anything that she can do to help. So I'm thinking maybe with Perry, she could kind of babysit his 6-year-old triplet siblings once in a while.
I can imagine like shy Jade in a halfling house with just like shit tons of kids running everywhere and screaming that like one's beating up the other one and the other one smells bad.
Exactly.
This
she's
one hit
trying
me.
to help, and she's like, "Hey guys, maybe we should." Oh, okay, all right.
And getting all of their names mixed up.
Right.
And
she's
they're
got
like,
good
"Harry,
intentions.
help Jade out watching the kids." The parents like, "Yeah, sure." The parents leave, and they're like, "We out." Like leaves with his two older sisters.
Yep.
Sounds perfect.
If you tell our mom that we left, we'll tell her that's because you hit us. Like, leave.
Let's see. Yeah, she when she's not doing chores or playing with children or eating at the town bakery, she can be found in the woods gathering berries and roots. She just feels more at home in there. So, yep, that's all I've got.
So if I got my math right, I think that Riven is about like close to 10 years, maybe 8 years older than Jade.
Yeah. She's in her 20s, so.
Okay. So it's likely that Riven and Gundren knew Arjun when Jade and Arjun were together in the woods. And I'm not saying like in a creepy way, but did you keep tabs on them just to kind of make
They
sure
used to
that...
watch.
No,
Yeah.
not like that.
See, I almost typed that out into my thingy there as part of that edit, and then I was like, nope, all these fuckers are gonna like take it like that, so I'll just wait for the section.
Wait until somebody. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, one of those things where, I mean, Gundren, for Jade anyway, she knew he kind of shared some of his knowledge about the forest with her at a young age. I mean, it's not like he took her under his wing and like tutored her in all things or not, but
But Jade was very familiar with him.
Knew she was comfortable in the woods enough by that point. But yeah, I mean, like from time to time he'd cross paths with them, staying out of sight as he does most of the time. While he's out there. I mean, being in the woods is not something you can just go around broadcasting your presence all over the place, but knew they were out there, and occasionally kept an eye on them when he knew that there was a high level of work activity in the areas that they were in and whatnot. So
And
Sounds good.
how old is Drake in relation to Jade?
In relation to Jade, they almost seem like about the same age. I set mine at 22. So I wrote a note down that's saying that what we said earlier about Gundren taking me to Jade when I was a kid doesn't make sense. She'd be too
Navy.
young.
Navy.
Taking it in Navia.
Navia.
Or Navy
Oh.
family, I guess. So it's Navy.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got the bit about Arjun and Navia, and then Perry, babysitting, disaster. Hey,
How old
Sounds
is-
about right.
Yeah, Elena.
What's up?
How old is Navia?
She's about 30.
Okay.
so it looks like Navia and Riven are about the same age. Gundren's a bit older than everybody else,
Yeah. So if
and then Drake and Jade are the same age.
Drake drug off to Navia's house, after being hurt in the woods, how old was he?
Anywhere between, I started at 11, so anywhere between there and 15, I'd say would probably make sense, or
Okay.
maybe even older, something like that. Whatever fits.
So Navia would have been like 23, 24.
Well, and it's a family thing. It was a family thing too, so it's not like she wouldn't have seen.
Right.
Right.
That's what I was just trying to think. Like if she was the one who treated him, or if he drug him back to town and handed him over to Navia's mom, even, and Navia assisted with the care and whatnot. But Gundren was a presence at that point too. So knowing Navia's family kind of power.
Boyfriend dying or whatever.
All right, yeah. So just making sure we all have the same kind of age concepts in our head. So Gundren is definitely the oldest out of everybody. He's seen all of you since you were kids.
I mean, he's probably known like your parents and whatever your parents did around town. Like he probably had some kind of knowledge of your parents too.
Yeah, he might know, like, yeah, when your parents were your age, da 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 da. So like he gets to kind of see like traits in your characters, kind of like replay from your parents. All right, so he's definitely the oldest. Then it looks like Riven and Navia are like the next oldest. Basically hitting at 30, and then it looks like Drake, Jade, and Perry are all in their mid to early 20s. Is that correct?
Sounds right.
Okay.
I already played an old guy.
Gotta go the other way.
Yep.
Gotta go the
Yeah.
other way.
I'm the same.
right. All right, and Roy, did kind of where would what would Riven have thought, or kind of seeing Jade and kind of the meditation stuff that she gets up to when she's out in the forest doing her thing? I mean, how does Riven feel like about spirituality?
Riven can jive with that. He's kind of like one of those guys that's one with nature. He likes being out it. He likes. He respects all things created by whoever.
Like
Nature god, dude.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet.
So
I like
getting, I don't know, like Nate, I know you were talking, are we going to roll like in session for our core stats and stuff like that?
We'll do that this session, yeah.
Okay. And we're going to, so should we approach this session with an idea as to what class we would like to play, and we'll get the reroll, like the
Yep,
advantage?
we're going to handle that all this session.
Okay. So, like, is that something that we could just like flat out say, like, hey, Roy, what class are you kind of considering for Drake to play at, since he's kind of woodsman-y, and I mean Nate's question, like spirituality and stuff, like how's he feel about
He
Yeah,
might
I mean-
end up multi-classing too.
Yeah, I mean, so my main point is like, kind of more to color Riven, like, like Riven kind of killed a guy, like, does he see, how, what kind of coping mechanisms, like how did that affect Riven, does, he export any of the blame on anything else, or, does he take it really, really hard, kind of what's trying to get that piece of that, kind of how that dogs him besides the obvious reputational, stain.
Did you say that I witnessed somebody killed or I killed somebody?
Well, I mean,
With the boat.
you did
With the
get into
boat.
that boat and he drowned.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Well, he didn't drown because he no longer trusted him afterwards, so he's still alive. At least that's what I remember hearing.
Oh, no one else trusted him. Like,
Oh, no one else trusted him. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I thought he drowned.
Okay,
The
gotcha, gotcha.
the city now no longer trusts me. Anybody that knows my name won't trade with me. But like I don't know. I kind of dealt with that. It wasn't a huge deal because as I said it earlier that I was 18 learning a trade and I learned from my mistakes. I've kind of I've overcome the mistake of someone else's life being as a result of my mistakes. So
Okay. So, I mean, so that would color kind of why folks look at you poorly in terms of like they assume that you should be way more verklempt over the fact that your handiwork killed a guy.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. You know, and that could have just been, you know, you just kind of had like mental fortitude beyond your years, but they're just like, why is he not like breaking down crime for the fact that he killed a dude? And it's like,
Did the guy die because his boat just like spring a hole, or did he hit a rock? What happened with his boat?
Well, the boat actually sprung a leak because I made it with two different pieces of wood instead of doing it out of one single log.
So instead of like hollowing out a canoe.
Yeah, so I put two pieces of wood together and the seams weren't jointed correctly, and it sank.
Was there any formal investigation done about this that Drake would have been involved in?
Sit divers in.
Oh yes, here's the cause: shitty sap in the seam. That's what it was.
sad.
I only knew of my failure and why the boat sank after talking to Corey's character and exchanging some notes on carpentry.
Okay. Yeah, Drake would have been on the force when it happened anyway. So.
I would love that
But
conversation.
that could be like we'll call it an unsolved mystery. In terms of, like, yeah, this guy, like everyone, you know, dislikes, you know, Riven, or they don't trust his handiwork, you know, except for like his friends, or just like whatever, he's a good dude, shut up. But you know, that could be like, I don't know if that, you know, that case is cold, but maybe it's not too cold.
Yeah, so it's like there's kind of like whisperings of like murder, you know, like.
Yeah,
He was framed. It was the one-armed man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barry's gonna be like, "What's it like to kill a man?"
in a very kind of like off-putting halfling question way. Like,
He's gonna like nudge up to him real quiet and be like, "So what's it like?" He's like, "No, listen." He's like trying to get him away from everyone.
He's like, I didn't really kill him, just the boat. I made a bad boat. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. But what's it like?
You still did it.
Something you did caused the death of somebody else.
Yeah, Barry's like, "Yeah, I got you." So what was it?
So Drake, how would Drake, you know, or how did he perceive the Jade Arjun thing? Because he was about the same age at the time that was going on. How did he feel about Arjun in terms of like, hey, he's not from Elmwood. He, you know, claims to come from, you know, such and such. And he's kind of weird. And what was
And that would have been around the time that they were like early mid teenagers too.
Yep.
That's what I'm picturing. So.
Yep.
Okay, so I was already a part of the militia at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know if he would have been too wary of outsiders per se, just because we are kind of dependent. I mean, we're not one of those kind of enclosed communities where we're like, you ain't from around here, and you just kind of like shove you off, because we're pretty dependent on trade and stuff, so we're not going to shun outsiders, right?
One of them are city folk.
So that is a good point. So we're gonna go back here real quick, and I really did derail you horribly. So we're here.
Geography time with Nate.
Yeah, we're here, and we're not gonna talk about any of these other places yet, even though they're things. We're gonna talk about this place, Hillsfar. Hillsfar is the big major hub and probably the least corrupt place around here, and you're all familiar with it. However, they are extremely xenophobic, and they only let humans inside of the city walls. The exception being non-humans that they take as slaves, because it's cool, because they're not humans. And interrace relationships is kind of like racial relationships, kind of like a cheap trope for this, but that's going to be really the only place in the region that's just like very much like humans only. So diversity is one of like kind of the key pieces of Elmwood because there's a bunch of people who have a non-mafia home who wouldn't have had access to one otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, does that town? Does our village have its own laws, or is there some laws that are set forth by that bigger city farther away, or is it just us? It's just
No, it
we're
is
in a
just
bubble.
you guys. Yeah,
Okay,
so
as long as there isn't any, because I'm going to play this guy very by the book cop type of thing.
Mhm.
So as long as there isn't any law he's breaking, I have no problem with him. And I also have, because there's a law saying it's okay for slavery in that one place, I also have no problem with that because it's the law. That's my...
There.
Well, I mean, it's the law
It's not
there.
here.
It's not the law here.
I know, right, but it's still a law.
Yeah.
I uphold law wherever
It's
I am.
okay there.
Yes. Yes. So, we probably wouldn't have been too worry of that guy, and as long as he followed our laws and rules and regulations, Drake would have had no problem with it.
So let's talk about crime and punishment. So, does your character participate in any of the execution of the law? So,
Execution as an execution, or just like serve and protect, that kind of thing. Like, I mean, maybe not when he was in the militia, but now that he's on the force, yes, he's very much...
Executions are really, really rare. Putting folks in stocks and maybe they perspire there is something that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And also like people who die from wounds that they receive from public whippings. That happens.
I'm guessing there's no like judicial system.
Not Okay, sorry. No, just damn it! You infected me with your tongue sickness.
Do you have tongue warts too?
Yeah. Yeah. So there is not a rigid judicial system, so you might be the only person who is very by the book. But by and large, it comes down to don't do anything to impede fair trade, but fair being the key word there.
Mm-hmm. So since I'm not the head of the peacekeeper force, or whatever you want to call this. Would be that sheriff figure that would like pass judgment? I just bring them in a pass judgment. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would have, you could make some field judgments, but you would ultimately have to be responsible for if the sheriff was like, yeah, that's what I would have done, or no, you fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I see someone outside breaking the law, from how I understand it. I'll bring them in, and then that's where they'll be sentenced to whatever their punishment.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah, he could take care of that. If you need to make a field judgment, you can. You're just going to have to bear the responsibility of if you fuck up. So don't make any decisions that are not.
He tried to take my sword. And I had to kill him.
I had to kill him. He was running, but I had to kill him in the back 8 times.
Wow.
So did that answer your question, Nate?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would guess that in your detective work that you've probably looked for people who are like, something happened here and it resulted in the perpetrator's injury. And then like going around to the 24-hour health clinic and like seeing if anyone showed up with some sort of wound suspiciously matching someone's like fence post or something like that.
Yep, that definitely sounds plausible.
So, Nadia.
Yes.
Let's hear about you. Well, your character. Her.
do I get to talk now?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay. So Navia was born and raised in Elmwood. Her family is actually one of the founding families of the settlement. Her maternal line are all the healers of the town. So from a young age, while doing the normal childlike things, playing, staying away from the woods, you know, playing orcs and goblins, she was also taken by her mother and her grandmother to go help heal the townspeople, treat their illnesses, sicknesses, broken bones, infections, whatever. Um, so when she did, when she go around with her grandmother would often take care of the older people as her grandmother knew them. And they would tell, because there's elves and dwarves and not just humans here, they were alive for the heyday of Elmwood. So they would tell her fantastic stories of what the town used to be like. They would describe, these different foods that the traders brought and the different people that they met and, about these different lands and everything. And so at, young age, she started to get a wanderlust. Just she wanted to go out and see this world. She was always planning on coming back because, Elmwood was her home, and she does have a fierce pride in the fact that her family is a founding family. However, her grandmother got really sick with, being an old person, and old people get sick. And despite the fact that she knew she wouldn't be able to help, her mother tried everything to keep her grandmother alive, but to no avail. Once Navia's grandmother passed away, her mother sank into an unshakable depression. She just no longer, it was all she could do to get out of bed in the day, and she shirked all her healing duties. So at this point, Navia, despite not knowing everything, had to pick up the slack. It was at this point that Jade brought Arjun to her with some unknown disease that he had picked up in the woods, and try as she might, she wasn't able to save the boy. At that point, Navia realized that she did need to go through, like she started reading through these tomes and these histories, these handwritten medical journals from her family, so she could she could be the person that the townspeople needed her to be. She put her aspirations, her dreams of traveling the world on hold for a bit. Her mother eventually did recover from the depression. However, she never, practiced healing again. It was just too much, such a trigger. The townsfolk, they are kind to her mother, but she doesn't get invited many places. People talk behind her back and Navia's back, wondering when Navia is going to crack, just like her mother did. So she aspires to prove them wrong. She doesn't want to, be a healer who cracks. She doesn't want to, necessarily be like her mother. She wants to prove them all wrong. She would love to grow out in the world and find new medical things. She'd like to learn new ways of healing, new techniques, new technologies, whatever, because all her stuff is all hand-me-down stuff. So she'd like to do that so she can bring, better health and happiness to the town, and hopefully that, healthy, happy people, you could stimulate more people to be there, and also bring in people from the surrounding towns too. She also has an apprentice, a girl who she had treated for a face injury when she was younger. So the girl's slightly disfigured in the face area from this, and thus has not been sold off to some wealthy merchant somewhere.
She's Uggo.
Yeah, she's a butterface.
I want like, for some reason, I'm just like thinking like Perry's parents would be like church buddies with your mom or something like that. Like that like occur like I want Perry's like family to be like religiously active. Like they go out. I don't know what.
Well, they have to be. They've got 12 kids. They have to be some sort of religious.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So they got like
Very
a
Catholic.
kids, and they go to church and they get dressed, and they walk down to church or whatever. And
Yeah,
then,
like her mother now goes out in town and stuff, and people
Yeah.
are nice to her. They just like don't invite her to parties.
and like Perry's mom or something is like, in like some like, group or whatever the fuck they do on like Wednesdays when they all get together and read the Dragon Bible and like.
So Saloon, the goddess of the moon, is probably someone who's got at least a nice shrine set up to do outdoor sessions.
Outdoor church things?
Yes, I didn't know what the right church word was, but it was something.
Outdoor church things.
Is there a religion that congregates? Because I'm really liking the congregation sort of
You
thing.
just like
Yeah,
the word
yeah.
congregate.
Yeah. No, they could just congregate outside when the moon is visible.
Okay, cool.
That
And then-
makes it sound kind of creepy.
They make moonshine too.
We don't like that.
No, it's okay. She's the good moon god, not the bad moon god.
There's a bad moon god?
Yeah, she's the good one though. But her sister's a bitch.
Nice.
Obviously.
I don't know how I feel about the moon god thing. That's gonna jive in with my jams. Like a night thing, that'd be horrible.
No, not a night thing. Like a early enough in the morning thing that you can still see the moon thing.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's perfect. That's the worst thing. And then like would they like meet for? Would there be like some like study or whatever, like moon Bible study?
Yes.
The moon
Yeah.
Bible.
Moon Bible study.
Okay, cool. So like and so like once every like 2 weeks or whatever, then
They
like
have moon Bible study.
gotcha.
Napi doesn't go though. She's too busy fixing Perry's younger brothers who probably like fall and smash their faces on rocks in the forest.
Yeah, they're like
Because they're 6 years old and that's what happens when you're 6.
they're on a farm with like pointy things and giant pigs and everything is big. Trampled by pigs, trampled by rooster.
Dude, pigs are dicks.
Yeah.
Adam's entertained for hours.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's open up the floor for questions from players to other players about their characters, or about the setting, or about anything in that realm.
Well, Roy, I'm curious, what happened to your
Adam,
parents,
stop.
or family?
Parents are
Okay.
fine. I mean, I'm a grown man. I'm 30 years old. I'm a human. I'm living out by myself.
So it's like real life.
They're
Brutal.
still around and stuff?
Oh, yeah. They're around.
Okay.
He's 30 years old in real life and lives on his own.
Yeah, yeah.
Are they
life.
living in town, or are they living out kind of in a farmstead?
They're farmers.
Okay.
How did you become a carpenter if they're farmers?
What's that?
How'd you become a carpenter? They're farmers. Like, where'd you pick it up?
Okay, I can't anymore.
I just kind of picked it up just by, doing the things I need to do around the farm, like fixing fences and building stables, and I learned how to help build a barn for the animals and whatnot. So I just kind of grew on me, and I figured out how to do it.
Fair enough.
Learned out.
So he conceptualized a boat, builds said boat, and then realized that sometimes conceptualizing something's not quite enough.
Yes.
Yo.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. That's good enough.
No, what? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, when I was 18, I started like following an actual carpenter and started learning.
Okay.
But I was still very green and very inexperienced at the time.
Probably distanced himself from you since the accident.
Oh yeah. I
So I have a question for Nadia.
Hmm.
So you said you come from a long line of healers, right?
Yep.
And you currently have an apprentice. Is she supposed to take over from you since you currently have no, you're not continuing the family at least this current point? Or is you just training her for training's sake?
Training her for training's sake. It doesn't hurt to have someone else in the village that can help, as Navia's mother no longer does, and there's never, usually there's at least two generations of the family that take care of things.
Okay.
So and hopefully my apprentice she gets good enough so that I am able to go out and learn some new things and bring back some stuff to the village. Is this a village or a town, or what is this?
Yes.
Ugh.
What's your apprentice name?
Define village.
Jane.
It's a village.
Okay.
It's less than 900 people.
Yeah. All right, Jane, it is.
So Adam, what is Perry just like? Does he just farm on a daily basis, or does he do anything else? Like, does he do any carpentry or anything, or is he just like Taking care of the pigs.
He's pretty much like taking care of the pigs and helps his dad, run errands to town and, does basically farm stuff, which is tons and tons and tons of shit.
Yeah. How often does he go into town?
Probably, let me see.
Error.
Sorry, am I asking too many questions?
No, I was just thinking, because they go back in town to sell goods, and they probably come back in town for, gotta scroll up, sorry. I didn't think about what I did until after I did it. But I just
You need to post some pictures of kittens or something. Get rid of that.
Then we'll all be staring at kittens going, oh, look at that one. Oh my god, it's so cute. I want to see more.
No, anyway, yeah, he'd probably come back in town if there's like an emergency, like something broke, like a wagon axle or whatever. Like, they'd probably walk their ass into town and replace parts or whatever, or sell things. Maybe, I don't know.
How far are you?
That happens in the town on like the weekends that would like draw youth there or something like that. Like,
a dance every weekend.
Or something, or some sort of.
Shindig.
Yeah, some sort of thing. Where,
A hoedown. A hoot nanny.
Something like that.
How far are you away from town? Like, how long does it take you to make the trek in?
I figured it'd only be like a couple of miles, maybe. So, like, on a wagon or something with their, like, little donkey or whatever, maybe it'd take, like, like 40 minutes to get there, an hour or something like that.
Shit, I can
So,
go
like, it's with...
miles in 20 minutes.
What's up?
Fucking donkey's slow.
It is slow, and it's got...
Well, he's not gonna full gallop, he's kind of just like...
a cart, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, little donkeys go slower, so...
You gotta think this thing is, like, 3 times the size of any halfling, so like getting that shit like hooked up to the cart's gotta take like
45 minutes itself. What are you doing, Nate?
Like pulling a donkey as a halfling.
Well, he rides it, obviously.
It's a team effort. Well, no,
he has some steps that he has to use to get up to the top of the donkey.
Little rope, and then
it's a rope ladder. You just gotta like throw it over the donkey and just like you just gotta like climb up.
Aww.
What? Another halfling stands on the other side of the rope ladder to just wait it while they climb the top.
I imagine the triplets will eventually do that. They'll just kind of like stand on each other's shoulders so they can get things that are at people height. They're just like...
They'll be the ones who use that trench coat trick that they'll stand on each other's shoulders and be like, "I'm an adult. I'm a human adult." Whoa.
Yeah.
It's like they got one up there, but he's like afraid to come down, so he's like freaking out, like stuck on top of the wagon. Like doesn't want to jump off the edge, which is like 4 feet down. So it's like, oh my god.
I feel like Huey, Dewey, and Louie are like the inspiration for all triplet children everywhere.
Yeah, the
They
triplet.
nailed it.
Absolutely. So yeah, once in a while, and yeah, he probably should have like a side interest aside from like, hometown shenanigans and like, because the kids don't get to really play video games, do they? So
they play kick the can.
Yeah, they play whack each other with things that they are making believe are swords.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was thinking there's a lot of that going on, but there should probably be another thing.
Mess with your siblings.
Get your siblings to do your chores for you.
Exactly.
Does Perry have a girlfriend?
No, he does not. I don't think.
I think Perry probably smells like pig and has pig burns on frequent occasions.
Oh, pig burns suck.
How old is Jane? Like Uggo Jane. Like
Uggo Jane, she's like 15, 16.
She's like 15, 16. Shit. I don't know if that's old enough to like.
I think it's
I'm just, like
D&D,
picturing I'm picturing like your mom or something
Mhm.
trying to like hook Perry up, like, or Perry's mom is like trying to hook him up with like someone like, why don't you go meet Jane? And he's like,
No, Mom, I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like D&D times, like, that would be perfectly acceptable, and it's actually a shocker that she doesn't have kids by now.
That's because she's got the face thing going on. That's why I have an apprentice who's that age.
exactly.
Right.
So yeah, I figure like something like that could be going on.
So is a winged donkey a Pegasus? There's only one dad here to give me a high five for the dad joke.
Apparently you've been making dad jokes all week.
Yeah, I always make dad jokes now.
No, so yeah, so I guess that could be happening, and then yeah. So picture he's like got a thing for short girls, but that's kind of a problem. So there's probably like neighborhood kids, but I picture there's like one neighbor that they always mess with who's a little bit crazy. Like, I'm calling him like the Colonel. Like he lost his like wife in some conflict and hasn't been quite right since. And like he just like marches his kids out, and makes his kids do like army drills and shit, and like makes them stand at attention. And then
Can his house have a mast and sail up sticking out of it?
sure,
Okay.
absolutely. And then like so it's like the Colonel, and I picture like the kids at the Winkleton household just like make a career out of just harassing this.
Can he sit in the thing's crow's nest and wear a hat and yell at people who get close to his property?
Definitely.
Maybe, something like that.
Hoodlums.
I love the fact that
Maybe Roy made a boat that killed his wife or something. Like maybe she sank in the boat. So
maybe his wife was cheating on him with the merchant and then he died.
Oh, that's even better.
Oh my god.
Because like it's not really Roy's fault. Like it's not really Riven's fault. It's that trifling bitch. But like he can't
Separate out the two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can, but like he just can't deal with the complexity of the issue, and like if he should feel bad or not. So he just chooses the third option, which is like kind of not okay.
Fair.
So what's going on with his wife? Like the boat, like cheating on a dude on a boat, and then the boat.
Yeah, like she was gonna run away with the merchant, and I don't know. Are you cool with that, Roy?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Now the Colonel's crazy, and now his kids pay the price.
Does the Colonel hate Riven?
I think most people kind of like are like iffy with Riven just because like he sold the guy a boat and he wasn't qualified to make said boat and guy died and maybe other people on the boat like Colonel's wife. he was just kind of like, wow, I did a bad job. I'll do a better job next time. And they're like,
Guys.
sorry.
This boat is not something huge. This is like something you'd paddle out from a major ship from.
Yeah. It's just like.
That's all it was. They're like, let's go fishing, and somehow they died. It's a huge deal because of how small the town is. It's like you killed like 0.1% of the town's population. That's like a thing.
What is the town's population, roughly?
Someone said.
Like
I said less than 900 people.
yeah, it's less.
Oh wow, yeah, okay.
My family's like 1% of the population.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now you just wish you had created Colonel as your character.
No, that's like, the Colonel's probably like assistant like deputy police officer or something that like takes his role way too seriously.
Yeah, like he's the only person who thinks that he has that role.
Like every time Drake comes through the farmstead, he's like, everything's good here.
Thanks. I'm gonna look anyway because reasons. All right, so GM has a question about Perry.
Mm-hmm.
So typical halfling kind of moray value system-ish kind of stuff is that kind of let's put it this way, the more well-fed and underworked you look, the more powerful and attractive you seem to other halflings. So like think of like biceps and like chiseled abs and like a big fucking watermelon gut is kind of like what gets the halfling girls like going crazy.
Gotcha. So he's like a farmer. So he's just not about it. He just does not have it going on probably. So it's like Renaissance beauty standards pretty much like.
Yep.
Belly.
What's going on, Roy?
I said, as soon as you said watermelon gut, I just lost it. I had this really disgusting picture in my head.
Yeah, so I mean, it's likely that other halflings, like other halfling mothers have talked to your mother at church and like, yeah, he should really like think about putting on more of a belly if he's ever gonna find a woman.
He just has this fast metabolism and he can't do it. He has that great problem that young people have.
Well, it's a terrible problem if you're a halfling.
It's a terrible problem. Awesome.
So yes, yeah, so if he's like trim and fit by like everyone's standards except for halflings, I'm like, oh, he's like a pretty muscular looking dude, but by halfling standards, like, Going around the horn, any other questions?
Corey was Gundren was or was not born, I'm sorry, I just don't remember, in Elmwood, or he just kind of made his home here afterwards?
He was not born there. He was born. Actually, I didn't pick a location. I kind of left that ambiguous for the
That's
time
fine. I
being.
just was that's fine. I was just
No,
wanted to confirm.
he was born to like a hill clan of dwarves, and just wasn't that lifestyle just wasn't what he wanted. I mean, kind of like Navia, kind of got like a bit of the wanderlust thing. Didn't wanted to find a better place for himself, or place he could be happier. So he actually came to Elmwood, to the Dale Lands, about 40-ish years ago.
Hmm.
Maybe like 35 or something, like anywhere in that kind of time frame. I didn't really nail it down either because I wanted to leave it open for everybody to play with time a little bit.
Mhm.
So long enough that he's seen the town in more prosperous times, and um, kind of established himself enough there that he would have some kind of stake in it. So
Was there any one thing or person or something that drew him to the town and or kept him there?
no, I mean, really, I would say that it was just he felt more at home there than he did in the place he was born.
That's cool.
The woods just kind of spoke to him. I mean, I felt like he would have more of a connection with the forest than he would with the mountains and the hills. So maybe it might have something to do with the fact that elves had tended to it, and it was a little more of a magic kind of ran a little deeper in it for some reason, or maybe had some kind of enchanting feel to him that he liked it enough. One of those things where a lot of the young, like I think every one of your characters at this point, might not actually know how long he's been there. From their perspective, he's always been there. So he'd probably be just as much a fixture in the town to them as some of the other people in like spoken history of the place.
Yeah.
He knows. I mean, the town still dates him by an extra 350 odd years or so, but in their eyes, since they're still fresh to it, he's been there since Elmwood was Elmwood to them. So
Who's this guy?
This guy is Varys Nalio. Varys runs a lot of the special events that happen. They do happen in Elmwood, and we happen to be on the early morning just before the 50th annual Elmwood Fair.
Running beaver.
So pretty.
And he is quite nervous about what's going on here because, as we've labored over extensively, and you don't need to know, be told again, it's not. It's really important that traders really enjoy their time in Elmwood, and this is really a festival that's for the people there, but it's for the traders just as much. There's lots of kind of carnival booths set up, and food, and dancing, and grog, and it's basically something that everyone pitches in, and the traders don't actually pay for it, and it's something that like they use to attract people to try to like drive them in that direction. So when they're setting up this carnival of sorts, it becomes a all hands on deck and everybody pitches in. And since this is the 50th anniversary, they spent a lot more effort and energy on it, and they can't afford to have any of it go wrong. So it's early morning. The rooms that that the Elmwood has on the dock are basically packed to capacity. You see more boats on the horizon that are coming in, even as the dawn light breaks. There are musicians and minstrels outside who are tuning up their instruments and getting ready for this thing that's going on. And Varys is survival. Varys is pacing back and forth, and he's nervous. He's just rubbing his hands together. And you and a bunch of other volunteers are there to help run this event. And specifically, he is you're going out there as handlers to make sure that everyone who's there gets a good impression of the town, is having a good time, and thinks that they should stop in Elmwood as much as possible. So describe to me what each of you look like at dead ass early in the morning as a volunteer force for this, carnival, which you're gonna enjoy yourself at, but at the same time you're like doing work.
Well, Drake got up like 2 hours early, did his morning workouts, and got into his uniform. He's probably going to do security or something along those lines at this type of event. So he's just treating this as another day on the job. So he looks like he's definitely he's attentive and very awake.
Jade has gone for a walk in the woods and got to see all the morning dew and everything. And then she was, of course, one of the very first people there to help.
Guys, let Roy talk.
Oh, sorry, Roy.
I must be really
Sorry.
shy.
You're
Like,
really
really
quiet.
Yeah, you are really
Very
quiet.
I had no idea you were talking.
Yeah, I don't know how to solve that. Sorry.
Well, you're better right now.
Yeah, you're better now.
Yeah.
Working.
I'll go with that then. So I was just gonna say that Riven was walking in from the woods with his bow slung over his back. He was up early in the morning and he was checking his traps and going on a little hunt. He's walking in. He's kind of dirty from the brush and the mud and the water that he was traipsing through, but he is heading over to the trader's tent with furs and with a bunch of furs that he slung over his back.
Half a dude.
Waking up in like a bed or something, or like what's going on exactly? Like in quarters on site, like
Yeah, you're basically like all on site. This carnival's just about to start, and you guys are there ostensibly to like handle all of these people and make sure they're having a good time and kind of like walk them around and be fake friends with them.
gotcha. Yeah, Perry wakes up and he's just like excited. He's just like his like big feet are sticking out of this giant bed. He's just swimming in. And he like he's so happy that his plan to get out of having to handle the swine today worked. Makes a mental note to go by and bug Lori because she's. I guess they have like a swine expedition. They have Winkledon swine every year at this stupid fair, and he's gotten out of it for the first time. So he like strolls out and like to a balcony and kind of like lights up his little pipe and like is just enjoying life. It's like, man, it's just great to not be Lori today.
All right, Navia.
She's been up. She had to get up and water the garden early in the morning because if you water it during the day, the sun kills it. Uses water as magnifying glass and kills plants.
Okay.
She's up. She's functioning. She's collected bandages and everything else you could really need from people acting stupid at a fair.
Okay.
Gudrun is all too aware of how important this event is for the town. So the only nicer looking clothes that he has in his entire wardrobe he's wearing. He woke up a little earlier. Earlier to rise, typically to get out and set his traps and whatnot. Go to check his traps from the night before. He actually took this time. He got up early, took the time to comb out his beard, oil it, use some of the fancy scents that Navia has whipped up in her apothecary's shop. He's looking like one dapper dude. Definitely not the trapper career that many people would place him at if they didn't know any better at this point. And he's putting on the best show he can for his beloved town. So, he's there early. He's just kind of waiting around to see who shows up. Maybe making small talk with some of the other locals. Checking in on them, seeing how their wares have been doing, how the families are, and just kind of waiting until the guests start showing up.
All right. So Varys is, he's like looking at you, and he's like his eyes just go wide and his jaw drops. This is all wrong. And you see him turn around and he runs back to like a crate and he pulls out these brightly colored yellow and blue like pieces of cloth and he hands them to each of you like, you all need to be wearing tabards so that they know that you're from Elmwood. And they are these ghastly colored yellow and blue tabards that are like meant to like go over you, and he looks at those of you that are carrying weapons, and he's like, and you don't want them to think this place is rough. You'll have to leave your weapons at will call, and make sure that anyone who comes, you take their weapons too. And he's like, we can't have any incidents. Nothing can go wrong. Nothing can go wrong. He's just stressing out, walking back and forth.
Perry's like, excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. Sir, do you have a small baby?
My sash doesn't fit.
It's like, my mistake. And he goes back in, and there's one that's like, kind of bib sized, and he gives it to you.
This
Like,
this,
thank you.
this taboo is not a part of the official uniform.
And he looks up and he's like, we need you to help on the docks. It's more important right now. And he's like rubbing his hands together, and he's just like really nervous, like, oh my god, I can't believe this. Oh my god, I can't believe this. He is wigging out. And then
Jake comes over and tries to comfort him and asks what more she can do to help.
And he looks up and he says, just whatever you can do. We need them to be impressed with Elmwood and want to come back. We just really need to put our best foot forward. And as he finishes saying that, you hear a voice call out, like over the din of people getting ready, well, hello there! And staring out, you know that it is your friendly neighborhood Goliath, and he's waving a hello to a flat-bottom boat that's pulling up to the docks. And he's like, and at this point in time, Varys is just, his eyes just like shoot wide with fright, and he's just like, go greet them! And he's like pushing you in the direction of the docks.
Well,
And-
I'm sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, and Jade pats him on the back and says, "Don't worry, this town is wonderful. They will all see that." And she walks off.
Whatever my character's name is, Navia, she's gonna actually like hand him a sprig of lavender, because lavender has calming effects, and just smell the nice flower, just smell the flower. Give it a minute to work its magic.
He just like looks at the flower and like looks at the medicine woman, and just like he like buries his face in his hands and just he's just trying to like de-stress.
So Drake's gonna say to him, don't you think it would make people feel more at ease to see a uniformed officer of the peace armed to make sure they know that they're safe?
All right, and I need you to do, and then I need you to do it again. Or no, I just need you to do it once. I lied.
That'll do that. That separates out, right, and keeps the.
Yep.
Nice.
All right, that's your charisma score. All right, and he looks at you and like your determination to do this, and he goes, and he nods his head slowly. You're right, and he's like, sorry, I just nerves.
It's all right.
And,
We just want to make sure everyone feels safe.
And he says, would you mind just keeping an eye on the others to make sure they're at their places?
Absolutely.
All right, and the rest of you?
Perry's like, well, are we like supposed to like stand at the gate and greet them, or do they want us to like see them off the boat?
That's like, and he looks like, well, hopefully they brought goods that'll need carried off to market real quick, and then you'll just have to scamper back and rejoin them to make sure that they don't get lost and get bored. Oh God, what if they get bored? And he just starts kind of like pacing in circles again.
This is a yearly event, right?
This is a yearly event, but this is the 50th anniversary.
Okay.
Of the event, so it's not like a town or anything. It's just like, oh, it's
Riven pipes up and looks over and says, so what do you actually want me to do? This is not a very good place for me, since most merchants won't even talk to me.
And he looks like, well, you don't actually have to talk to them per se. Like maybe just carry their stuff and make sure they're well attended to. And he gets like a little bit nervous, and he's like, and he points over towards like a long area, and over there you see that there's a pole, and there seems to be like some sort of weight attached to the pole, set on some sort of like a seesaw, and then you see a large mallet there, and he says, "Run that game."
I guess Perry's gonna walk up to the boat. Like he just sees these people pulling in, and he just like sees this opportunity. He's just gonna walk up and just gonna shout across the dock. He's gonna like, "Welcome, welcome to the Elmwood Fair." It's like We have a great show. You know, this is home of the Winkledon swine. Let me know if there's anything to do to be of service. And he just like takes this deep bow, like off the dock.
All right,
Like,
roll
just-
roll your Shaw score for me, please.
Right. Let's see. Let's see if his shameless self-promotion works. I gotta copy that, right? All right. Dang it.
Slash R.
Yep.
Oh no.
Wow.
Ow.
So narrate
You
what
ran.
actually happened.
It's like, what the hell? This sucks.
Sad times.
And Jade's also at the end of the dock greeting people, but she speaks in such a small voice that half of them don't even hear her. But she's offering to take their goods, and some of them, hand them to her, and she struggles and carries them back to the carnival and finds them a place.
I need both your Cha score to see how well they if you asserted yourself like I'm here to help you and not obnoxious, and your strength score to see how well you deal with the heavy packages they set in your arms.
Uh-oh. All right,
So
Cha.
Oh,
12.
that's not bad.
Nope.
And strength?
Is that counting my +1 or without?
No, so you'll add that to whatever you have existing.
Okay. And strength.
Yeah, so if you have +1 there, you'll have 13.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 14 strength. So your characters are kind of like ephemeral in the way that they look until we get through all these. So at 14, that makes you +2, which is pretty strong.
Jacked.
It's all the
Big
manual labor she does around the town.
How is? Do we figure out what Perry looked like when he?
Yeah. So Perry, how well was that received when you're just kind of like, welcome to the
He's
place?
just like, welcome to the place, and then everyone just kind of like ignore it. They're already having their conversations and everything, so he's like kind of puffing his pipe, and then like they just completely like disregard it. They're like, yeah, sure.
So like
just-
probably put some of the pig smell and like the scuffs from working it didn't quite get cleaned out, and there's like, why is this dirty halfling yelling at me? And I don't give a shit about his pigs.
Oh no.
Navia's gonna put her hand on what was the guy's name? The stressed out guy.
Stressed out dude, Varys.
She's gonna put his hand on Varys' shoulder because I'm assuming he's freaking out now that he's seen how it just went with Perry.
Mhm.
Assuming his blood pressure's going down. She just calm down. Let me go take care of this.
All right, give me your charisma score, please. And you're taking advantage on this, so just
Yep.
roll it twice and take the higher.
You should give us a macro button.
Eh.
It's like Cody did enough work.
Once you roll it, you can just push up and
Yeah.
shit's
Right.
up.
You're not autistic. Congratulations.
The world wants you. The universe
It's
wants you to have 15 Sha.
Universe gets what it wants.
Yep.
Bad.
That's not bad. That's a 16.
Oh.
Being a human.
Yep.
So that's not bad at all. I'm very proud of roll 20 sometimes. I swear it gives us better scores when we roll it this way. So Navy is gonna walk up to the group of people that got off the boat and disregarded Perry and just say, welcome. I hope you all enjoyed your journey. I hope that no one suffered from any seasickness or nausea from the trip. However, if you have, I've got something that can fix that. Just let me know. Feel free. Enjoy our town. Please let me know if you need anything. I'm happy to help.
All right, and one of them kind of looks at you, and he gives you like a half smile, and he says, "I don't know how I feel about having a lady carry my bag." And he like holds out like this, what I will only describe as a man purse, but you can see that like furs are like tipping out of either end.
It's
of
Italian.
And can you see that this gets to my room? I'm staying at the Still Waters.
Sure. I will take care of that right now, and she will.
And it's full of fucking rocks. What's the strength? Roll your strength score for me.
Is the Still Waters the only inn in town?
Yep.
Okay. Check.
Figures.
Is it the
14.
only place that is like the only restaurant in town too? Like it's the tavern slash.
There's lots of street vendors that are like selling food today, especially. But so 13 strength, respectable. So you're able to. It's heavy, but you're able to sling it over your shoulder.
I don't show him that I struggle.
Yep. Yeah.
I take the weight and I just am shocked by it, but I deal with it and
Okay. All
don't
right.
want him to think us small town woods people are weaklings.
All right. So you all see Navia take off that way. So meanwhile, Riven, you're.
I got this. So, if you can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
So Riven mans the
I got this.
game over there, and he kind of looks over towards the people getting off the boat and says, "Come, test your strength. Test and see how good you are." And he pick up the mallet and swipes down on the pedestal there to, what the hell is that game? I don't know what the hell it's called.
Ring the bell.
Yeah,
So
test your strength
I want you
game.
to roll two things. First, I want you to roll your strength to see how high you hit it, and two, I want you to roll your charisma to see if like anyone even was looking.
This is fun.
Anytime I think of that thing, I think of like Mustachio and Left 4 Dead 2. Like,
Yes.
Oh damn! All right, Riven is a buff dude.
+3.
Yeah.
Now the charisma.
Yeah. Now your charisma.
Yep.
And people were looking. So just you hear this resounding ding, and everyone in the docks, their like heads like spin up in that direction.
he uses the bell as like enunciation for his. Oh, right. Good work.
Proud of that one.
All right, so kick both of those into your sheet, and you'll have, if you're taking +1 to everything like humans do, then you'll have 17 in both.
That's awesome.
So as the people are coming off the boat, Drake's nearby, and he announces that all weapons must go to the will call booth, and at the same time he's like eyeing everybody to see if there's anything that's concealed.
All right, so give me.
Super friendly.
Give me
I didn't. That's why I didn't act it out. That's what he was announcing. It's like, welcome to the fair. Please be advised that all weapons must be deposited in the will call booth. You will receive them after you leave. All right, so
Give me charisma and wisdom.
I already have charisma.
Oh, you already have charisma. Shit. Give me wisdom and intellect then.
Wisdom.
Not bad. 16's great.
17, not bad. And intellect, you said?
Yep. Looking for concealed shit. All right, also not bad. So yeah, you notice some folks that you notice folks who have weapons and are pretending like they can't hear you, and two, you can see where they're concealing those weapons, like the faintest bit of it. So you're able just to like, sir.
I stopped
know you
them.
heard me.
Sir, I know you heard me. Please deposit your weapons in the will call booth. Don't make this harder than it has to be.
All right. So what's going on with Gundren?
That is true. Gundren is standing just past the edges of the dock, kind of in the midst of all the street vendors, the foods and whatnot, and he bellows out, "Ladies and gentlemen, come out, come on, come all, sample the refreshments our glorious town has to offer you, and come on, come all, sample the goods that Elmwood has to offer you." And he kind of makes a big spectacle of directing people towards what he thinks are the choicest carts to try first.
All right. Yeah. So give me a charisma check to see how many folks you bring, or your charisma score to see how many folks you bring in.
And you're not allowed to shave until after you're carried.
All right. So yeah, you do pull a few people from the boats, and people who are waking up in their hotel rooms, like, what the fuck is going on? Like they heard the bell go off and they're like sticking their head out the door, like, oh, I guess shit's getting started already. And someone from the boats approaches you, a dark-skinned trader. He's got a sling over his shoulder, and he pulls out of it an oddly shaped fruit with spines on either end, and he just hands it to you. He's like, a gift from my people. And looking at that, give me a wisdom score of what to do with this fruit.
Indeed, what have we here?
You know better than to eat this thing like the skin, and so you like hesitate for a second. It's like you peel the outside. On the inside, it's delicious, but don't let it sit for longer than a week.
Indeed. Well, thank you kindly, stranger.
And he leans over, turns back. And says, what the hell do I need to do to get a drink? And like the sun is barely even up, but apparently this dude like is ready to start pounding him.
Ah, well, if you're looking to sample some of the local brews, I point you towards the Stillwater Inn. It's got the best around.
And he produces a flask and he says, "Oh, really?" And he unscrews the lid. He pours like a tiny shot in, kicks a shot in himself, and then does another one. Is like, "Would you care for some?"
Indeed. If you're bringing contraband into town, I should test the quality of it.
And he gives you this hearty laugh, and he nods and he eagerly anticipates you to take it, take the shot, and that'll be a Constitution score. All right, so that's badass Constitution. Yeah, so you feel it. It has a definite burn, but it subsides almost immediately. And despite the fact that, I don't know how much breakfast Gundren eats every morning, but it doesn't do really anything to upset your dwarven tummy.
Ah, that tickle's on the way down. I can still have no trouble out of you, sir.
And he gives you like a hearty pat on the shoulder, and you see him start walking towards some of the food stalls. All right, you hear the braying of an animal way behind you, and turning around, you see that Navia, who's like carrying that dude's man purse to the Stillwater Inn, like almost gets run over by a cart. Navia, I need a Dex score from you.
Crunch.
Nope.
Man,
All right, so Navia is both decently strong and very dexterous. She very athletic. She darts out of the way easily. And
From all my time picking things in the garden and going through the woods, you have to make sure you don't trip. God.
And like shooting a glance to the guy who's driving the wagon, she basically disappears from view as she's on the other end of it. All right, so with that like minor there's that pulled a whole lot of distraction, and people are kind of a little bit kind of out of sorts. And one of them turns up and looks at Riven. He's like getting close to looking at this thing, and he says, "Don't you all have like proper streets here? Like that woman was almost killed. You should have a horse street, and you should have a people street." I was like, I thought everybody knew that. So can I get a whiz check from Riven to delicately tell this guy that he's a dumbass?
Oh God.
Well, he's got good charisma, so he can deliver it properly worded. It's just
Yeah.
a matter.
Like putting the argument together, yeah. Yeah, so Riven knows that, of a town this size, it's just not feasible to do that, and people will just go wherever they go anyway. Maybe he's used to, like, the big city and stuff like that, but, you can phrase it as, oh, we're just simple, town folk here, and that is a tactful way to get across that he's a little out of his element. All right. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Jade, you notice that there is this game where there are what looks to be like a lot of what look like bottles, like all stacked up, and people are throwing these like little woven hoops to try to land them on it. And you hear like a word of murmur come from a group of people that that's unwinnable and it's a scam. And it itches you that you should probably prove them wrong. And since you said Dex is your primary, you'll roll twice and take the better.
Okay.
Well, so you managed to.
Okay.
It takes you a couple tries. You do manage to land one of them on the rings, and you just see it go and slip down it.
Folks, you just, it takes a little practice. A simple folk. We We have a lot of time.
And these people they're like definite detractors. They're hecklers. And one of them has what looks to be like braised pork on a skewer of some sort. And he's turning up a nose at it. It's like, is this even food? It's looking at it. It looks like it might have been hastily prepared. You're not quite sure. Give me your whiz score on if they should consume.
Point him at the
Uh-oh.
halfling because that's the guy in charge of that.
He deals with live pigs. He doesn't know what happens to him. Like,
He's running like the
You
four.
see
His family's
things-
like the 4-H stand.
Like he hasn't even realized. Like he just takes care of the live ones. He hasn't even realized that like he eats them for breakfast yet. Like he hasn't made that connection, right? Like he doesn't know what happens to them after they leave the farm.
Uh-oh.
he just doesn't know how people cook them.
All right, Jade, your whiz score, please. All right. So looking at this, you can tell that it is definitely undercooked.
So,
So you could take one for the team and, eat it and get him another one. Like, it's fine. And find him one that's more cooked.
oh, okay, folks. I will go speak with the vendor and and I will make sure that he makes one to your liking. And she takes off with it and speaks with the vendor.
All right.
You might want to cook these a little more.
And he just starts yelling at you, like, this is cooked fine. These people with their gentle city stomachs, and and he's totally not with the game plan of, like, your best face forward. He was like, no, eat it. Just put it in your mouth and eat it. Seriously, it's fine. Look at it. And he starts peeling it open, and you can see there's, like, obvious pinkness on the inside. And it's like, that's where the flavor is. What, you want me to turn it into a brick? And he's just like, eat it.
Is Navia still with the bag of rocks, or she like come out by now?
So Navia hears this and kind of like sidles up behind
So
Jay.
Navia's gonna say to Mr. Fucking Fuck there, this may work for us. This might be fine for what we normally eat. However, do you really want me to have to deal with a whole bunch of very, very sick visitors to this town? Because if you want, I can send them to use does this guy have a restaurant, or is he just a street vendor?
Street vendor.
Would you like me to send them to to use the restroom at your house? Do you want to take care of them? Because I know it's not going to be a fun time. Cook the food, what it needs to be cooked for these people, so that we can just satisfy them and everyone can have a great time.
All right. So as you kind of like are there, and he's like sitting at an open grill, and you're like, getting in his face and kind of like berating him, and he's
I'm not berating him. She's doing it very nice, but like, dude, I don't want to deal with people with the shits.
Being assertive.
Yeah. So like the three of you are having this
She is
confrontation.
the most tactfully trying to be like, I don't want people to come to me with diarrhea, so let's solve this problem now.
And he's got this open grill,
Amen.
right? And all this raw pork that's being cooked on it, and like the smoke from it is like blowing into your face, and like temperatures are getting a little bit hot, and you're just trying to keep cool, and I need both of your con scores.
Like that's what he's getting at. Eat the meat. You get sick.
Oh jeez.
Okay, so I mean, it's like you're starting to both like visibly sweat a little bit. Like anybody would in this situation. It's middle of the summer and it's already starting to get warm a little bit, and it's you guys are getting a little bit heated in a less euphemistic sense. All right, and speaking of which, as soon as you notice this, you hear a thwomp. And turning around, you see that one of the traders has hit the ground. He is closest to Gundren. Gundren, as you spin and you're taking a look at him, you don't know exactly what's happened there.
What's the matter, lad? Can't stand the local brews. And he goes in for a closer look.
All right. So give me your it score, please.
We don't want Health Inspector Smackdown. We want that one.
So looking at this guy, you can see that he's got these like tiny tremors of the hand, and he's obviously not eaten a whole lot, and just he's probably been on the boat all night without resting. So he overexerted himself trying to get here, and you should probably get him out of the sun.
Oh, is he like human or what's the?
Yeah, he's a human. He is a like light-skinned guy with a blonde, scraggly hair and not nearly as glorious beard.
Ah, fantastic. So Gundren kind of hauls him up as best as his 5-foot frame can manage at this
score.
Taller fellow. What?
Strength score. Yep.
While all this is happening, Riven walks over to Gundren from his side satchel, pulls out the egg from this morning that he gathered and gave him to the man that collapsed and said, "Here, you should eat these."
All right, give me your it score, Riven, and you're noticing that Gundren's having difficulty like moving this collapsed man.
Yeah, good so far. I can't wait to see what my dex is. It's gonna probably suck.
You jinxed yourself.
Oh shit.
All right, so you know the ephemeralness of Gundren has kind of like tightened up a little bit. So accurate guy, not the muscliest dude. He needs a little bit of help moving him along. Riven, with Riven's help, you guys move him off to a shady area. Start chomping some food to get him a little bit of protein in him.
Never fails. It's always the leverage that gets me.
Oh, Gordon, crack me up.
This is awesome. So meanwhile, Navia sees that guy pass out and sees like the egg stuff going on, and she's curious as to if that's actually going to do anything. Give me Navia's int score.
Oh shit!
Tell me what Navia tells them.
Oh.
Nice.
Navia's very concerned about this.
I'm glad that everybody's hitting at least one single digit thing. It's gonna make some great like.
I have not yet. That'll probably.
You
be my
just
next
jinxed
one.
yourself.
I'm getting like a 2.
I already hit mine, dude.
And now we know why Arjun died.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, she's okay with it. She thinks that it's because he doesn't have enough food in his stomach. She also suggests that he drink some water because that usually seems to help.
Have some beer and it'll hydrate you. Get this man fluids.
That's a fantastic idea, lad.
Give him a shot.
Oh god. All right. So like while he's like over there doing all that, Perry's just kind of being left by himself, and he's like, you know what? I haven't really eaten anything yet. I could totally yoink some food.
Absolutely.
So
trying to get people's bags, and they're just totally disregarding them. Like it's like just got totally snubbed by a whole boat full of people, and he's like, "This job's man."
So the problem is that the street vendors that you're going to, they're literally like someone's cooking, and their food's not done, and there's a person with done food, and they're like walking around with trays and stuff and moving around through the crowds, and you're having to like jump and try to get at it. So it's just kind of like trying to get food, and it keeps on being moved out of your reach. And getting really
everything is just a little too tall.
Roll twice to give me your dex.
Story of my life. Let's see.
Greatest swordsman in the world can't reach the kitchen counter.
Aww.
The struggle is real. You have no idea.
All right, so 13.
You moved up
we
to
do better than 13.
All right. No.
You were supposed to have 13. All right. So yes, you do. Get yourself some food. Looking at it, it's this food's moving around pretty quick. Maybe someone should say something, but maybe it's okay. Give me your wisdom score to see if this food is like okay to eat. Okay, so looking at it, you're like, these might be tainted kebabs, Is Perry the kind of person who would try to eat a tainted kebab?
Absolutely.
Okay, give me your con score.
Just say yes. to get
Probably
the
has a strong
offers.
stomach.
We hope. Oh, jeez.
Are you kidding, dude?
All right.
Mediocre.
So,
How many different ways can we make 13?
all
I
right.
didn't know he rolled it.
All right, so chewing on the kebab, you feel like a little grumble that like affirms your suspicion these probably ain't K, but you probably won't have to pay for it for another few hours at least. So whatever, punch away.
He's all bloated. He's like, oh.
I need more beer.
It's a loan that's going to cost you interest later.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Meanwhile, like Riven, you've been like slamming hammer into this bell thing like all day, trying to like get people drummed up to try to do it, and it's starting to wear at you, and it's pretty hot, and no one's coming around to help you, which is getting kind of frustrating. Give me your con score.
Single digit, not my dexterity.
All right. But yeah, dude, you're just like slamming it like a champ. Like, there's just very few things that you're not bad at. Like, seriously, you're good at everything.
So,
Dex, we were like a 4.
Yeah. All right. So you guys all hear Riven going nuts on this thing. Just keep on shouting to people to come try it out. Meanwhile, Gundren has noticed that there is someone who's going around like one of these people, and Drake hasn't noticed them yet, but you're pretty sure that he's putting his fingers in pockets that aren't his. So as you're taking a look at how he's doing that, and you think you might see what looks to be like some sort of parchment that he's nicked from someone that he didn't quite tuck into a pocket all the way. So,
Who's this, Jake?
what's that?
This is Jake?
This is Gundren.
Oh, how far away is Jake?
Jake is, you can see him, yeah. Or not Jake, is Drake.
Who's Jake?
I was gonna say, who's
Yeah.
Jake?
Yeah, it was like Jake.
I heard you say Jake.
Like, I
earlier.
must really zone
No,
out because
Drake.
That's
Yep. Yep, so you see Drake.
Okay. Yeah. So Gundren's gonna make eye contact with him and like gesture at this guy like something's a little fishy. Like keep your eyes on him. He's got something in his pocket.
And as soon as you do, he notices you, and Drake sees him break out in a run.
Alright, I say, halt! And I start running after him.
All right, give me your strength check. Let's see how badass you are at running.
Great. Let's get trip and fall over a table.
I get
double.
Yeah, it's my double.
Oh, that is your double? Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, that's not fucking bad at all.
So how many times have we all rolled doubles on our double?
No, you rolled 14 and 15.
Oh, I was looking at Riven's.
Yeah. All right, yeah. So Drake has no problem grabbing him, and he tries to twist out of your way, and you see him grab the parchment, and he starts to do something really stupid.
Eat it.
He starts to start shoving it in his mouth.
Oh, I try to take it. This is
Does
evidence,
he
and I
rip
try
it to
to.
pieces first?
It's like, this is evidence. Like, no, it's not. And he's like, give me your dex score to see if you can pinch it and pull it out before he completes.
Oof.
So he's chewing on a mouthful of parchment, and like immediately you see it dawn over him. This was ill-advised because his mouth just dries out from this parchment in it.
Wow.
He's just chewing on this. He's like, get off of me! And he's just like pulling, and like, I don't want rice! And he's like pulling his arms away from you. And and you're able to subdue him and take him away from the festival at large and go take care of him.
Yep, I'll take him to the jail wherever. Just to.
Yeah,
shake him down and see what he was doing. See if I get him to talk.
All right.
What was on that paper?
And Jade notices this, and she takes a look at the man who this guy was potentially pickpocketing from. It looks like a halfling with like red and black robes with like a prominent frill that runs around like all of the joints. Definitely way too fancy, for these folk. And obviously he looks very different than you and your tabard. Give me your int score to see if you know who he is and what likely was stolen from him. All right. So he's from a city. And
He's not from here.
thought that could be like a writ of trade, a promise of goods. It could be a deed. Like, there's just a ton of things that are, could be on a piece of parchment, and it's hard for you to narrow that down. All right, so we have our first completed character, Jade, Amber.
Yes.
Now that we have scores, give us a unephemeral description of what Jade looks like.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's like, how do her traits define her?
Yeah, she is very wise. That is what she's best at. And followed by that is strength. And then she does moderately well at charisma and dexterity. And she can't take much of a hit. Her constitution is low.
I mean, like, usually like the numbers to kind of guide what you're.
Like,
I know.
Is she scrawny or is she ripped?
Yeah, or is she tall or is she short? Like, stubby legs, can't run really fast. Like, what's the?
Can she run long distances or is she more of a sprinter?
Yeah, I mean, so like for instance, so she kind of have like the body of a sprinter, right? So kind of like like very strong, but not able to keep it up over a long period of time.
What would be that score? Because I know strength is one of them. What would the other one be?
So con is kind of like why she
Con.
took her out, yeah.
Okay. Well.
But she'd be maybe very spiritual, just kind of like very in tune and looking for deeper meaning and everything around her.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of her whiz score.
Yes. She can run, but only in sprints. If she has to keep going, she tires out. So she does well for short runs, like through the woods.
Over the hills.
However, she is a little apt to trip, but not overly so.
Yeah, I mean she's much more nimble than average. She's
Yes.
above average there. So I mean,
Mhm.
there's nothing below average about Jade.
No. She's just average with her con.
Well, like 10 or higher is still like really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's when you get below 10 is when you're not very good at all.
Yeah, it's like she might be
Right.
average for, like, she might be average for like a superhero.
Well, I took a 0 as average, is what I was thinking. But
Yeah, I mean 0 is kind of like your average dude man. Dude, bro.
And I think even though she's soft spoken, her friendly demeanor and pleasant looks kind of help her get the attention of people.
All right, works. So you're not quite sure what was on that thing. You notice that Perry is just like munching on a piece of like meat on a skewer and like not helping anybody, and you're trying to like piece together this mystery. What would your character do in that situation?
I picture him as like alfalfa now. Like, for some reason, ever since that shout at the docks, like he's alfalfa now. So, he's one of the little rascals just munching on stolen food and shit.
She would just kind of go over and welcome him and ask him if he is enjoying the carnival.
It's like,
Oh, so this is Perry. Like this isn't like it's not his job to enjoy the carnival. It's like his
Oh,
job to
it's
make sure.
Perry? I thought
Yeah.
you were talking about the other halfling
Nah.
with the fancy stuff.
Nope. Sorry. No, I'm talking about Perry. Like
No, it's
Perry.
just very.
Perry's like sitting there like the official like I'm from Elmwood Tavern on,
And he's not looking so good.
Yeah, I mean he's just like eating food. He's just like nom 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 like eating food there.
It's like, welcome to Elmwood. Don't give a fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Like meanwhile, you're trying to like piece together this mystery of what was stolen.
Perry's just kind of eating and doing his thing.
So I'm gonna walk over and kind of quietly let Perry know what I saw and ask him if he knows anything about the other halfling based on what he's wearing.
All right, int score for Perry.
See what Perry knows.
What, you think just because I'm a halfling I know all the other
I don't.
halflings?
She does it in a sweet
Dude.
way.
Exactly where I thought that was going.
Yep.
Perry's like, I got no idea, Miss Jade. Sorry about that. He just keeps nomming on
Miss
his
Jade, we're both the same age.
You babysit the kids.
Yeah, it's true.
I see. I see. And get walked all over.
Yeah, he's
She
like,
just
yeah,
can't
sorry.
keep up with them.
He's like, "Well, I'm a bit out of my element, you see.
I love how you're eating too.
I noticed that. I was like, oh, he currently is.
Yeah, he's
Very
eating.
easy to role
Corey's
play.
got his beard.
Yep.
And he's just explaining matter of factly, like, I'm just out of my element, you see? Like, matter of fact.
Yo, that's what's going on.
All right. So while people are lining up and like the hidden thing booth is starting to tire Riven, and Perry sees this and like he's like, oh, I could like go do that thing.
Perry's
Throws
like,
his meat shank aside and buffs up and puffs out his chest.
And he's like, this will be fucking hilarious. Let's see like how many people I can embarrass with my awesome pig handling strength.
Dude, seriously, if you hit an 18 on your strength, I really want to go like halfling barbarian and just rip shit up.
Oh, ouch.
dice are this.
All right, so attempting to pick up the hammer was pretty rough, and like Riven's like, this is gonna be fucking hilarious.
It's like pig handling strength not there because he doesn't actually carry the pigs. He just
He's kind of like he's like a big whisperer.
he's about as strong as you expect like a 3-foot beam to be.
Oh, yeah. So Riven is kind of like looking at this and laughing, and like Perry's trying to like pick up the hammer and like get it over his head, and just like doing that part's difficult. And after like a lot of struggling, he manages to do it, and then you see him start to rock back on his heels. He's about to he's about to hit the dude behind him in line. Give me your dex score, 2 rolls to grab him. 14 it is.
That's number 15.
Yeah, the universe
Isn't that what
tonight.
you've
I'm
been
telling you.
going to? You've been going for it too, haven't you?
So I add +1 to that, right?
If you're human, yes.
Yeah.
15.
You're
I'm stacked.
All right, so Riven and Perry. We'll go with Perry first. So describe what Perry looks like now that he's less ephemeral and you've got stats rolled out.
Perry's he's just this little tiny, like he's small even for like a halfling, and he's just kind of like scrawny. He doesn't seem like he eats much. He kind of like doesn't make eye contact too much when he talks to people. There's just something when he talks to you, you just don't wanna. You're just bored, kind of, or you just lose interest.
Oh.
He's got like that vibe to him, and then he's just pretty much average. He seems a little quick, on his feet, but
A little quick.
yeah, a little quick, but yes, sir.
All right. And Riven, what does Riven look like now that he's statted out?
So Riven's pretty tall. He's pretty. He comes across as very confident, and strong. On the outside, on the inside, he's he often wonders and thinks what others think of him, but he kind of keeps to himself. And just by passersby, nobody really looks at him like he's an outcast, but he's just kind of a big dude and just kind of like relaxed.
Yeah,
Everybody whispers murderer behind his back.
except for the
Aw.
fact that he's like statuesque and like
They whisper very quietly.
women want him and men want to be him,
Mm.
except for the murdering part.
Except for the murder.
Yeah, Riven is some character in like a romance novel, like those like thick ass ones that you see in the shelf. Yeah. It's like one of those dudes who gets on a cover of a romance novel. That's
The dashing, the dashing hero with the past.
yeah. Yep, that's exactly what's up. Like, oh, people think I should be more upset about the fact that this guy died, but not really.
The chick's just so hot.
Chicks look at him like he's the bad boy. Oh, I heard he killed a guy. Yeah, me too. And all like somebody just sank in a boat that he shittily built. Like,
Like, did you ever sleep with a man who killed a guy? I would
Yeah.
try. All right. Meanwhile, Navia thinks she might have, handled that situation right. She gets back and she sees there's more boats coming in. And this person steps off a boat, and you see that he is carrying some sort of like fowl in his hands, like a chicken of some sort. You see it's like tied around at the ankles with twine. And he just kind of like hands it to you without saying anything.
Is it gonna have bird flu?
Give me your wisdom score to see if you know how to handle being handled a live bird. All right, so you keep it upside down. The blood's still rushing to this bird's head. It's basically like passed out. You see there's like a little cap. You notice there's a little cap that's like attached to its head to basically black out the light. So it's just take a little naparoo. So you figure that as long as you keep this thing, upside down, you can take it wherever it's supposed to go. He's like gonna look to him, and he gives you a direction like towards the market, and as it's a gift to Elwood. So what does Navia look like now?
Yeah, maybe she looks slender but toned. Yeah, she looks like she can pretty much handle herself. Might get a little tired after a bit. But yeah, she's not entirely sure about all of her medicine stuff. A lot of the books that she has are really old. Some of the pages have worn away, and there's been some water damage, so that's why she's hoping to get out in the world so she can learn more things.
It's like spending her time reading water-damaged books.
Well, we're in Elmwood. We don't have too much. I mean,
no.
the traders
I'm
and the
not
docks
judging
don't bring
you.
much by.
I think that's fucking awesome. It's like, so I don't know if I should treat your food with cream or with cram.
She's just
Nightshade. It works on everything.
Oh god.
You just have to purify.
Duragar
it.
Nightshade.
Yeah.
You have to purify it in
Yeah.
oil of nightshade.
Yeah. Cure it a little bit.
It's cured in oils. Like, how's it cured? In oils.
In oils.
What kind of oil?
Yes. There you go. Last but not least,
You just found a better one.
Drake.
Mhm.
When you were taking this guy back,
Uh-oh.
Jesus.
What the hell was that?
the fuck?
What did you do?
I had to scroll all the. Oh
You
wow,
broke it.
No, I just copied a link.
I
that's.
was gonna say, like,
It doesn't
Bro.
work.
It's not even a link.
Yeah.
Hell happened there?
Link fail.
Yeah, no shit.
Learn to internet. But it worked. It did work. Just copy and paste and it works.
I'm not copy pasting that whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
kidding me?
You just double click on it and it copies it.
As you are escorting your prisoner to the stockade, You've got him by the scruff, and as you're leading him down, and all of a sudden he twists and splashes a vial of something in your face. Give me a con saving throw. Or not saving throw, but your con.
I was like, what? Ah!
Roll your con to see if you can save.
All right. You feel it and you smell a familiar scent, and you realize that it's elf fruit, which is not actually a poison at all. But this guy doesn't look like he's the sharpest crayon in the box.
I'm going to assume you tried to poison me in some kind, but you didn't. But you still assaulted a member of the law enforcement. That's even more time in the stocks for you.
Like the color drains from his face, and you like approach this cage. It's like this open air cage, and there's like a couple drunks who are like sleeping in the bottom of it.
In you go. I'll make sure there's extra vegetables on the outside for people to throw at you.
And he's still like chewing on the piece of parchment. He's like, I still know my voice. What does Drake look like as he wipes the elf fruit infused water off of his face and trudges back to the fair to make sure that things go swimmingly?
He seems to be. He's pretty beefy. He's more like almost like a weightlifter, but not full on like CrossFit type kind of guy. He's not very dexterous though, so he's kind of slow. But average.
His thighs can still fit in his pants.
Exactly. He can recall. He has lots of information in his head about. He's memorized all the current laws and all that stuff in this current town, so he can recall them pretty easily. And he's definitely very keen at picking out some, like, looking at things and just deducing what could happen, what this thing could mean when he's doing his investigations.
All right. And as you're trudging back to town, Varys comes running around the corner and he says, "Lawman, quick! There's trouble!" And as you run back to where this is happening, a brawl has broken out. Apparently, there's been some sort of argument with one of the locals who, one, refuses to wear a tabard, and two, he and his halfling buddies got into a bet and lost about that strength test, and now are picking a fight with the statuesque Riven, and you can see them just dive on him to beat the ever-loving tar out of him. And that's where we'll pick up next time.